I'm Jake Bruton, and today on the Build Show, we're going to call this primer to scheduling or scheduling 101, however we want to call it. We're going to talk about our 3 phone call method and how we get to that 3 phone call method. Let's do it now. All right, so this idea of the 3 phone calls, the scheduling 3 phone calls, let's not bury the lead. Let's talk about what those 3 phone calls are real quick, and then we'll talk about how we get to that point. Phone call number 1 is 8 weeks out. Phone call number 2 is 4 weeks out. Phone call number 3 is 5 days out, or if you're really good at math, 1 work week before it's supposed to happen, to remind everybody. Those are phone calls that are going to subs, to our suppliers, and to our clients. Hey, we wanted to let you know that project that we talked about, you doing the foundation on, we're about 8 weeks out. Hey, I wanted to let you know that foundation project over on such and such street that you gave us a bid on, we are 4 weeks out. Hey, I wanted to let you know that foundation that we're working on, or that we're ready to start working on next week, it's a week from today. If you wanted to be a day early or a day late, I just need to know so that I can move schedules around. Let me know what your schedule looks like. Those conversations, those 3 phone calls are some of the most important phone calls that can happen. I used foundation contractor as the starting point for this conversation on purpose, because that's kind of where our project starts. Yes, there's an excavation contractor and a surveyor, all those things. But if the foundation guy isn't aware that the project's coming, if he isn't aware that there's a start date, if he doesn't have it on his schedule, then he has no idea that the job start rests on his shoulders. So you have to make sure that each one of these subcontractors is informed. Same thing for the clients. Now, why did we pick 8, 4, and then 1 week? So 8 weeks is enough that the majority of our subcontractors, and no offense to them, are gonna go, yeah, okay, I know it's coming then. They're not necessarily going, oh, okay, let me write that down on my schedule. Why? Number 1, they might not be planning their schedule that far out. A lot of them are, but not all of them. And number 2, 8 weeks is probably not 8 weeks in the end. It's probably 7.5 to 10. There are things that come up. There are, rain delays, product delays, whatever it is. There are always moving schedules. And so we have to keep that in mind. 8 weeks is far enough out that it's not going to double. You know, if we tried to call it 16 weeks, there might be a chance where something doubles in schedule. So 8 weeks is close enough that I want everybody to be aware. 4 weeks, it's unlikely to move by much. It's not going to push by a whole week probably at the 4-week date. If it does, that's probably about the max. And then the 1 week call, the 5-day call, I can make that prediction really well. And I guarantee the way the market is right now, for how busy everyone is, they're gonna say, okay, it's gonna be 7 days, or okay, it's gonna be 4 days, or I have 1 day that I can swing over and get started, then I have to leave to finish one thing, and then I'll be back. It's never gonna be, yep, okay, I'm okay with that 5-day time period, I'll see you there at 8 o'clock in the morning. Like, it just doesn't work that way anymore. Hopefully we can get back to that level of organization, but right now, it's tough. So when we talk about this organization, when I say 8 weeks, honestly, does that scare the hell out of you? Do you know what your 8-week schedule looks like? Do you know what your 4-week schedule looks like? Chances are some of you do, chances are some of you don't. Well, it's an important conversation. If you don't know where you're going to be in 8 weeks, how can you inform people ahead of time as to where they need to be in 8 weeks? Because you should be scheduling at least 8 weeks out, because I guarantee some of your framers, some of your plumbers, they're booked for more than 8 weeks, and you need to know whether or not they're going to be available. So technically my 3 phone calls as I build this are 4, because we have a 6-month phone call too. Hey, we signed that contract. It's going to be about 6 to 8 months before we start. I just want you to have it on your list. Most of our subs are small enough, are boutique enough that when we work with them, they can put that on their schedule and most of them will call me and say, hey, what about that one thing that we talked about? That house over in that neighborhood, is that still happening? Yep, it's about 6 months out. So knowing your own schedule. How do we get to know our own schedule? Well, I have two arms of my company. We have the in Columbia arm. Columbia is where I live, so I'm a little more present because that's where our office is. And we have our Kansas City arm. And while I am involved in the exact same way, my office is not in Kansas City, so my senior project manager in Kansas City doesn't just stop by the office and we have the same conversation every morning. We have to change the way we do things. So in Columbia, we have a whiteboard that has the next 3 weeks for every project we have open on it. On that board, if it is in black, it is an aero building problem. If it is in blue, it is a subcontractor problem. If it is in purple, it is either something we need to film for build show, something we need to talk about for suppliers, or one of our crew members is going to be out of the office. So the purple is like kind of don't really pay attention to it, but black and blue, that's AB versus subcontractor or supplier. How are we determining that schedule? It's a moving target at all times, and things get erased on a daily basis. Things get added on a daily basis. I have no means to tell you this is the best way to handle a schedule. What I can tell you is be consistent, fill it out every week, change it every week, and you'll get better at it. Literally, my advice is practice, practice, practice for a whiteboard schedule. Or the other way that we do our schedules for Kansas City is we use Builder-Trend as our in-house software. And with Builder-Trend, we're able to build schedules that are either in calendar form or a Gantt chart, and then we can overlay all of those over top of each other. We can look for scheduling conflicts. We can look for opportunities to run contractor from one job to the other job, like, oh, plumbing's supposed to finish this day and start this day. We need to make sure that the plumber knows that he's blocking out moving tools from one of our jobs to another one of our jobs so that we don't lose him for 3 weeks while he goes and works for somebody else. Scheduling is more important now than I think it ever has been in my entire career. The difficulty now is everyone is so darn busy that it's run around and put out fires, and that's not the type of industry that we want to operate in. We want contractors that are going to come, show up, have the feeling that they have the time to do a really good job, and then once they are done doing a really good job, move on to the next project. If they're not informed as to what our schedule looks like, if we're dropping something on them, the first thing that's going to happen is we're going to get a rushed, okay, well, I don't want to lose your business, so I'll pop over and take care of that real quick, and then we'll get over to this other job. Like, the last thing you want is a surprise contractor. I realize you don't have any control over the other contractors in your market, the other crews that you share subcontractors with. It's out of your control if everybody else is doing that to them, but you should try not to do that to them. That way maybe they'll be a little more responsive for you. Number 2 on the list for ways that we manage our schedule is no reno. This doesn't exactly apply to new constructions, but no reno starts without all the special order items being in the market, in the local warehouse, or on the job, or in our possession. Because the first thing that happens is we can't finish a bathroom renovation because the accent tile isn't here yet and we shouldn't have started it. And the second you have to go, okay, well, thanks for coming over and setting up all your tools, Mr. Tile Contractor, but that tile's not here yet, so just do everything else and then we'll come back in 3 weeks. That's the first way to lose schedule with subcontractors. That's the first way to piss off people. That's the first way to disappoint your clients. If you go, oh yeah, well, we got started, but we're not going to finish right away. We'll be back in a few weeks. So special order items in the market, in the warehouse, in your possession. A new one that we're adding that we haven't started yet, but is starting in the next few weeks. We're going to try to reprice things before we start, just so that clients know where they stand. We have a little project right now, basement renovation. It was priced in December of 21 and is in drywall right now. Drywall went up by 25% in our market during that time. that $7,000 drywall looks really offensive now that it's 25%, over budget. We're covered because we're a cost plus contractor, but that still is an upsetting thing to lots of people to just go, well, we didn't change anything, but the job went up. Which actually brings me to a conversation that I had with a contractor that I'm inserting here, that I don't think he would be offended that I share, but we'll find out because he does watch these. I had a conversation with a builder and he said, well, I priced that stuff, last year, so we're trying to do that as cheaply as possible for our clients right now. We're taking a little bit of a cut on our our cost plus, to try to share some of the burden of materials and pricing and everything going skyrocket. My first thought was, okay, well, you're choosing to make less money to try to keep your clients happy. We've all done that. We've all made concessions. We've all made choices, Here's the problem with that. The contract, I'm sure, is written very similar to my contract, meaning if the price goes up, our price goes up. If the price goes down, our price goes down. The second part's the important part in this conversation, because number one, if you're going to take a hit on things so that you can better serve your clients, are they going to take a hit on things when things get cheaper? So they run the risk of things getting more expensive. Do you run the risk of things getting cheaper? Well, in our contract, it does. Whatever the price is, that's the price. And that's an important distinction, because this contractor was making a moral argument that, well, it's not their fault that the budget went up just because materials went up. Correct, it's not. But they signed a contract. The correct moral thing to do is stick exactly to the contract as you both have legally agreed. And so that means that you also have to do things for cheaper when pricing goes down. That's the like takeaway of the recent conversations that I've had. I know that that's an aside, but that repricing before the bid or before the job starts, that resolves any of that up front. That stops anybody from being surprised that materials are up by 30%. That stops anybody being surprised that the quote that we got from the plumber last year doesn't apply anymore, because plumbing pipe, inflation, gas prices, whatever it is, has changed their pricing. And we ask our contractors to be reasonable, but we also understand that they want to make money the same way that we're in business to make money. And we work with good, honest people, so we don't have panic attacks about what's happening. Now, this was the 3 phone calls. I already kind of talked about 4 phone calls. We had a conversation in-house last week about maybe this in the future is 5 phone calls to make sure that everybody is on the same page, everybody is ready, that we're calling 5 days out, that we're calling 2 days out, that we're calling the day before. It seems like harassment, it seems like babysitting, but I tell you what, we've started making more phone calls, and I do feel like it's made a little bit of a difference. I think that's just the ridiculous nature of the market right now. I don't think that's a long-term thing. I think within a year or two, we're able to go back to that 3 phone calls and have everyone be involved in a meaningful way, that we don't have to feel like we're harassing people to do their job. So thanks for watching on the Build Show Network today. I think we can call this the 5 phone calls. Scheduling. It's important. If you don't know the schedule, you can't communicate the schedule. My only recommendation is practice. You just gotta do it a bunch of times. Then you know who to believe, you know who not to believe. You know that when your plumber tells you he'll be there in 3 weeks, he actually means 4.5. You'll know that countertop supplier is always wrong with their predictions. Whatever it is, you'll figure it out and you'll get better at applying it. So take the time, do the schedules, and if you'd never done one before, keep it to yourself and see whether or not it was right. Then the next one, take that one to your subs and make sure that you're right. Okay, thanks for watching today. Have a good day. Don't forget to follow me on Instagram.